Hi everybody, he's Kevin Huey.
That's Andrew Maynard.
This is Archimarathon, and that there is what is habitually known as ParkLife by Austin Maynard Architects.
I thought that's by Blur.
The songs by Blur,
Ah.
the buildings by Austin Maynard Architects.
Ah.
Best architects in the world. Roll intro.
This is Brunswick,
Yeah,
and it's quite a low-scale cottages and industrial buildings, light industrial buildings.
yeah, mainly light industrial. And a decade or so ago, the government designated this area for apartments.
Trade.
So a lot of these old sheds have been knocked down and replaced with multi-storey apartment buildings that have not been very good. Kind of like, you know, how people are like, oh, I don't really like apartment buildings. You kind of go, I know the types you're talking about. They're the ones that were here.
And by apartments for the Americans, that's condominiums.
Condos.
Condos. What is that?
That is a beautiful old heritage building. I think it had something to do with the trains. But the reality is this is what the context was mainly like. And what we did, and we being a group of 6 architects, got together and bought a few of these, or borrowed a lot of money to buy a few of these to put up a great example of apartment building in this area. And those architects were Claire Cousins, Kennedy Nolan, Breathe, Architecture, and Austin
Hayball.
Maynard. Oh yeah, Hayball, and Austin Maynard Architects.
And Blur.
No,
No?
no. Stop calling me Damon.
That's too much of a compliment, isn't it?
Too much of a what?
Compliment.
Oh!
Oh!
So here we are. You can see the architecture, the side of it there, blank concrete walls, because one day there'll be a building on this side. You've got the Hayball and you've got the Kennedy Nolan there in red. And so each of these buildings was not only designed by the architects,
Watch for trains.
but each,
Train line.
that's Melbourne down there, each architect was the developer. So we were cutting out everybody else that's trying to just make money off the process.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to deal with 3 massive global issues. One being there's a housing crisis going on.
There is.
There's a massive housing crisis affecting everybody globally, really. There's a climate crisis. Today, we should be wearing big coats and scarves, and yet it's 24 degrees today.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. It should not be this warm. And there's a mental health crisis for a lot of diverse reasons, but one of them is just feeling disconnected from your community. So we wanted to build 6 apartment buildings that were their own little communities within a bigger connected community
Look at this.
with great little, come and have a look,
Okay, sure.
great little community spaces. So have a look at the scale of this. This we call the Muse. There's little front yards to some of the apartments. Look what Kennedy Nolan's done here. So you're connected to a public space, but you've got this great bit of enclosure in there. You've got neighbours that, oh my God, can actually go and talk to each other. So very European, can actually talk to each other across the gap instead of hiding from each other. So the idea was to create a connected community. That doesn't mean that they're all extroverts. You can go and hide. Like, there's plenty of introverts here.
There's plenty of seating and stuff built in.
Yep. So there's also beyond what you own in your apartment. There's these shared facilities.
These are
as well.
plunder boxes. Communal?
Well, this particular building by Architecture, that one is by a housing group. So they're a bunch of friends that got together and did their own, they paid for it themselves.
Right.
So they pooled all of their resources. And so we've got a housing crisis. Many of us need to learn what it's like to live a bit closer to each other. And it can be wonderful. And the problem is there's so many bad examples.
We also have the largest houses in the world.
We being Australians,
Yes.
yeah. So then we've got the Village on Duckett Street. That building there already existed on that side. This one here is
The one with the yellow, of course. Check the shoes.
That's ParkLife there. You've got Evergreen, which is by Claire Cousins.
I can tell from the green.
You've got the red one, which is by Kennedy and Nolan.
Yes, with circles?
Yes. Circles, always. You've got, this shouldn't be here. Naughty, naughty. And that's hay balls there. And then
Interesting.
you've
Brick
got
there?
Breathe on the other side with the shaggy green top. But the cool thing was that we, as a collective, we developed and designed our own buildings, but together we worked with council to shut this road down. So this is now a pedestrian place. All the shops can, you know, basically everybody grabs a coffee and bleeds out into here. But the other cool thing as well is that we ended up sharing services as well. So there's a whole solar array on the roofs and an embedded energy network. So we all share.
Oh, okay. All the
green
energy produced in the village.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so that means that we're using very cheap green energy throughout the entire building. So even though we've created our own communities, we've ended up with sort of this shared infrastructure.
Look at all those awesome people coming out.
Who do you bump into? Hip versus hype, that's Liam. Who we're doing ParkLife 2 with.
Hello. As we were saying?
About ParkLife 1. So shared services across the entire village. And so we've ended up with fossil fuel free, there's no gas, it's all electric, and carbon neutral in operation. So we're not producing carbon, even though we've got 200 homes here. In terms of ParkLife itself, 9.1 Mathers rating, so it's super sustainable. And the other cool thing is 6 of these homes we sold to a housing provider, so disadvantaged people at risk also have homes here, and the rest of them we sold to the open market.
This is exciting. I've never been here, so.
Haven't you?
No, let me in. Let the right one in.
You see this gesture? That's the park at the back.
Yeah.
This, we could have produced more shops. This is sellable real estate. But instead what we did was we decided that instead of you having to go through the side street or on the busy bike path, we would create a thoroughfare through our own building to get to the park. Have you noticed the colour?
I can't see your feet.
So this is, we borrowed from our good friends at MVRDV. We noticed they were doing some social housing where they didn't hide any of the mess, but they tied it together by just giving it a single colour. Really clever. So instead of spending more money on cladding, they just tied it together that way. The other cool thing about collaborating with your peers instead of competing with them is you see where it goes from concrete to metal.
Oh yeah, that's next door.
So that's Claire Cousins' building on that side. So we worked really hard, and it was difficult, to line up our light wells. So it felt like one massive light well. And then we, in our building in ParkLife, get to see all the way through to the west there. You should see the sunsets that come through there. There's so many great photos from the community. Remember when we were at Terrace House, we made these bigger landings which people could hang out in together, and we just put a balustrade around it, and then they started putting furniture next to it. So it actually created a bit of a problem. Here, we got rid of the balustrades altogether and just put that netting all the way through. And you can see how green it's getting. Eventually, that'll just turn into one giant green hedge. This is the managing director of Austin Maynard Architects, Sophie, in the wild. She usually avoids the camera. But the cool thing is we have some staff that live here as well. So you know a building's good. I think a building's really good if the people that worked on it actually want to live there. That's all I've got to say about that. The letterboxes are cool, aren't they, Kev? Instead of getting one of those big generic things, we decided to just buy ones from the local shop.
I think it's the one that they put on a post.
Yeah. So just like we did in Terrace House, we try to bring in smaller domestic elements, and the idea being that there's a familiarity there, because for Australians, apartments are confronting, like that shift from the single home. And this is just our way of being playful, as always, but being a little bit domestic. And it's cheaper.
So I noticed there's quite a lot of bike storage here. That's just for visitors, because that seems to be the main bike storage.
That's right.
It's very Dutch. Whoa.
And stackers on there, plenty of space, lovely light well. So you've got a little garden through there. So like we've done before, don't put the sustainable option in a basement, put it right near the front door so it's really easy to use.
And that's the main stairs through the building?
paying a little bit extra to put glass on there so it encourages you to use the stairs rather than using the lift.
Well, thank you.
So just like a terrace house, where instead of just having a long, dark corridor, we've made the landing from the stair and the lift into a place. So some of the levels, they have like chairs and tables.
Okay.
Because we've got on most levels, 5 doors that open out onto it. So you can have a little bit of community within your bigger community. And that's kind of the trick of what we've done, especially at ParkLife, is that this is kind of a territory shared by each of these neighbours. The rooftop is shared by everybody in this building, and then Duckett Street and the park is shared by the whole community.
Yeah, because usually a lot of internal corridors, you can't have plants and shit.
No, they don't
This is
survive.
quite interesting that it's encouraged that everyone just have their pots and plants and just
And you can
the
reach
communal
agreement
space, yeah.
about that easily when you only have a few doors. But you see some of these apartments where they've got like 20 or 30 doors on a long, artificially lit corridor. It's like you don't want to stop and talk to anybody.
No.
And it's impossible to form a community when you've got that many doors.
It's the right size to some tables and chairs here. And also enough space in front of each door to have their own little colony of stuff.
Yeah, that's such a good point. They've actually gone and defined their little front door. Those ones already have it kind of inbuilt.
Yeah.
So people can take up their own territory. Over here, they've put drawers so they can actually have a bit of excess storage that's outside the apartment.
Oh, yeah. And the use of the mesh is really quite extraordinary. Instead of the balustrade,
Yep.
it does double function, of course, safety,
Yeah.
but also plants grow up.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And like you compare it to Terrace House, balustrade there, couch put against it,
Yeah.
kids jumping, 6
Yeah.
stories up. So that's why we did this. And a lot of people, when they first come here, are kind of freaked out. And it's like, mate. there
Well,
have been-
you especially. You're the one with the...
Yeah. But I know that there have been 3 separate engineers that have signed up on this.
Okay.
So I've got great confidence that it'll hold me up.
Let's try.
You bastard. Let's go look at this apartment. This is a 2-bedroom home. So you've got 1 bedroom that's near the entry there with central wet areas, so bathroom and toilet in there. A lot of storage, unlike a lot of apartments, we've built in a huge amount of storage into the apartment. And then another bedroom on this side, which faces out onto the park as well.
And they all have shading because it faces north, right?
That's right, so it passively shades, and then the same thing happens because we've brought the glazing further in. This is all recycled timber on here.
I like the shelf up the top.
Well, the cool thing about this is if you look at the other buildings in the village, they've done what architects do and gone floor-to-ceiling glass, because that's cool, where we've given ourselves a budget.
So that's actually quite off-the-shelf height.
Exactly.
2.1.
And in terms of budget, I also mean a carbon budget, like an efficiency budget. So how much glass you have affects how sustainable a building is, because it leaks the most heat. And so we've brought that down so there's less glass, but then we've put that there as a way to sort of go, well, it's not lost space, it has this other function. It's thermally separated double glazing so that it's really efficient. And then you look out to the park. And the cool thing about this park is that used to be sheds. And the council, when they heard that we were doing this incredible, sustainable, community-orientated development, they went and bought 2 sheds down there and a 3rd one that we actually had as part of the village, and they demolished them and put that park to the north of this building.
What are these?
That's so creepers can eventually grow up, so you'll get a column of creepers. There's some behind you, Kev. You can actually see the jasmine just there working away.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that we did was we kept that tree. That tree there is on our site.
That's why it's set back.
That's right. So we actually gave up. How many developers would do this? We gave up 3 meters of space.
Yeah,
to
you can
save
see
that
the
tree.
other building there.
Yes, behind there. And we have called that Alan.
Alan?
Alan.
Alan? What's Alan?
That tree's Alan.
Alan!
Alan.
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 That's Alan.
Alan!
Alan.
And the reason we did that is because when we secured the site, we were walking around it and an old bloke came up and said, I planted that tree.
Oh, wow.
And I had this great conversation with this lovely old resident and what's your name, mate? And he said, Alan. And there was like, right.
Ezekiel.
Yeah, what's your name? Alan. And so we named that Alan. But we saved 3 trees. Do you know what that tree's called?
Ezekiel?
No, that one's called Steve.
Oh.
Steve? Isn't that the other one in the moon?
Steve! Steve! Steve!
Oh, it's a bee.
A bee?
Yeah.
Well, that makes the future seem rosier.
I guess having vegetation right next to it.
Yeah, these are flowering trees as well. So
Yeah.
that means we're in the city, but we're actually, you know, got bees and birds.
I heard some of the residents call this living like the kids are saying they live in a treehouse.
Yeah, they live in a treehouse because they come out to the balcony and it's right there.
They're right in the crown of the tree. Yeah.
There is I'll find some photos of it. There's a tawny frogmouth owl that lives in Allen.
Right.
And so every now and then they come out and they take a photo of this beautiful old owl that lives there. Like, we're in the middle of the city,
Right.
next to a train line. And it just shows that you can rejuvenate an area and have beautiful connection with nature, plus all of this great infrastructure that you get in a healthy city.
A frogmouth, by the way, for Americans, is a strange-looking Australian bird.
So we are in, you know, arguably the most sustainable apartment building in Australia. Fossil fuel free, all electric, carbon neutral in operation, no heating, no cooling, naturally ventilated, stable temperatures. But one of the big reasons that's so successful is knock that bit of concrete there. Give that a tap.
It's not concrete.
It's not concrete. So this, unlike all of the other buildings, is clad in an insulated product from Askin. It's FM certified, Code Mark certified, built completely in Australia. This is Volcor from their Vivid range. Great product. And you put it up similar to a concrete panel, a prefabbed concrete panel,
Makes
but
it a lot
it's so
lighter.
much lighter. So
Yeah.
it requires a smaller crane, less time.
Less structure.
This is that.
So it's got the metal on the outside, and you can see the mineral wool on the inside.
So mineral wool, and then that's actually thermally separated. So the 2 metal panels don't actually meet at all. So when you lock them together, you can actually see that when they're in tight, that insulation runs completely through. And so that provides a huge amount of insulation on the outside, which when then you put concrete on the inside, it's protected, it's stabilized.
Yeah.
There's a lot more information about this product. There's a link below that you can check that out with. The other cool thing about it is when you put 2 of them together, see that gap there?
Yeah.
That's where you put a bolt through
Oh.
into the structure. So it's hidden. It's hidden
Okay.
underneath that.
Right. And weatherproofing.
Very tight weatherproofing. If you think of it like a cooler, that's what we've done here, an insulated panel, and then you put the drink inside, and it doesn't matter what's happening outside, it's going to basically stay the same temperature.
Well, the star rating system really, and Leeds as well, it's really a European and North American model where it is about sort of thermally sealing a box, and hence the ventilator allows for fresher air to come in and out.
That's right.
And you've chosen a white color so that it reflects a lot of light, so that it doesn't heat up as much.
Yep. So solar reflectance is really important, avoiding urban heat sink that you get from dark materials. But the other thing, again, like in Terrace House with our weatherboards, this is the idea that we want to connect with that sort of more domestic suburban aesthetic.
It looks like just sort of strapping.
Exactly. So this might look like a normal ColourBond extrusion, but they're actually big flat panels.
Okay.
And we went and added these to it to create that more...
Oh, you've added these?
Yeah, domestic scale. And it meant that we could space it the way that we want.
Yep.
So where we have some sort of ventilation, things like that, you'll see there's some portholes that are smack in the middle of them. So it gives you more control over how you want it to look.
Also because it gets this amazing shadow effect.
And you get the sort of the dance, because west's that way, so you get these longer and longer shadows coming off it.
Yeah.
And, you know, 3 meters of depth that we've given up, that's a lot of yield. That it's, you know, that costs a lot. But look at the dance of the light from the gum tree on there.
And
Like,
it's beautiful out these balconies that connects out to it.
Yeah, that's priceless. And imagine saying, don't worry about it, we're going to plant some trees later. Well, look, you're talking about a generation for a tree like that to grow.
And lots of north shading here.
Yes. So in the Northern Hemisphere, think of it as south. So in summer, that's cutting out all of the sunlight. And then now, where it's late autumn, you can see that sunlight's now getting into the house and warming it up.
And just basically, it's nothing fancy in terms of sustainability. There's no like new fandango technology. It's really just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Simple, passive solar design principles.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's actually mesh as well, because a lot of the problem with these hoods is that they pond water.
Yeah.
And they sort of run in and there's leakage problem. This just shades and drains easily. Yeah. Hey, Andrew, I noticed a lot of these balconies have very specific cylinders, matching color, yellow and white.
Yeah.
Are they built in?
These we bought off the shelf
Uh-huh.
because they were affordable and a lot more cost effective than building in a planter bed. And the other problem you've got is it needs to be balustrade height, because if you put in a planter box,
You can climb on it.
Climb on it.
Ah.
So we went and found this product and deliberately put it there so eventually it creates this green column going up the building.
But many apartments had it. Is it part of the scheme, or does everyone just agree to buy the same thing?
Yeah. So like our flooring, we've just used that throughout all of the 6 buildings.
Oh,
Yeah. So you buy in quantity and you save a lot of money.
nice. Community.
Community, collaboration, all the C's. Touch this.
Can't touch this.
This is called concrete. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Feel it. It's like it's not hot. It's not cold. It's just a stable temperature. This is the whole point of this building, is that all of the concrete, the thermal mass, is inside and protected from the outside.
Secondary thermal mass where it's not exposed to the sun. So it's a thermal regulator.
Exactly. So this stays warm, relative, in winter, and
cool
then
in summer.
cool in summer. Where if this was on the outside of the building, or if it was here and there was more concrete on the outside of the building structurally connected, which is most Australian apartments, this would be getting hot in summer and cool in winter. And instead it stabilises the temperature. So this apartment, like every other apartment here, there is no air conditioning.
What?
Nope. And there's no heating either.
What?
No, absolutely not. What we do have above the bathroom is an energy recovery unit. So it brings in constant fresh air and it heat exchanges it so we don't lose energy.
Because this whole thing is basically thermally sealed. So what it does is that it allows for air exchange, fresh air coming in, but the expelled air is actually captured heat or cool, and it's replaced into the new fresh air that comes in.
That's right. So you end up with a heat exchanger. Basically, all of that fresh air goes through and lots of small cells where it passes the energy before it leaves the building.
Another thing as well, the ceiling
Yep.
is also thermal mass exposed concrete, and that is also very good because the cooler feeling is usually up from the top as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
But
that.
that's why they have chilled ceilings.
Ah,
Hot
okay.
floors and chilled ceilings.
And you can see that we've exposed the sprinkler system.
Yeah.
So normally a developer would just put a ceiling through there, and we were like, well, you're going to lose that much height by doing that. The apartment will feel bigger. And to deal with the sound separation and to deal with the temperature, all of our insulation happens below the floor.
Oh,
So that means the one below us also has concrete ceiling.
nice.
Working with community, they said just keep the cabinetry functional and simple. So we just did them white. As we've done on so many Austin Maynard Architects projects, we've put a mirror there, which works really well in making an apartment feel even bigger. Isn't it great how all this stuff that you usually try to hide, the detritus, just becomes joyful when you actually add greenery to it? It's even like beautiful complementary colours. Isn't that awesome? And this is the community doing this. Isn't it great when you build a building that's just doing enough to make a beautiful place, but then people come along and embellish it instead of paying the architect to decorate it? Love that. Level 7 is the rooftop.
Okay.
And because rooftops can get really windy sometimes, or quite often, we've actually broken it down into little zones. We actually do have some apartments up here. So there's one apartment there, and that one there, what's really interesting about this is a 2-story apartment.
Oh yeah,
They've got
okay.
a central spiral, so they can access it here or on the level below.
Ah,
You've got that openness through the Claire Cousins building, and then you can see over Brunswick all the way to the Dandenongs. That'll never get built out. And so on this side, the northern side, is where we've put a little veggie garden using more of the mesh so that if the community wants to, they can grow tomatoes and things over the top there.
Well, that's great.
We've got the electric barbecue sitting here, so you can have, they so often throw parties up here.
Well, it's carbon, it's no fossil fuels.
That's right, and you can put it away so kids don't smash their head into it. Just like we did at Terrace House, we've realised that if you want families to live in a building, you've got to have a bit of grass, and kids go nuts on it, just like they did at Terrace House. And then looking out to the north, where you can see so many more apartments of varying qualities, and our amazing park and long-term home of Alan. And so what we've done here as well is the form, which, as we were talking about before, references the smaller houses on the other side of the train tracks. It also works really well to break down the wind that comes through here. You've got the clothesline, look at this, all the clotheslines on this side, so that is broken down because of the roof form. And then in here,
It's the laundry.
yeah, a massive laundry full of Fisher and Paykel equipment.
Hey, what's that thing behind you in your pocket? Are you just happy to see me?
That's my lightsaber.
Wow, some serious troughs here.
And so there aren't laundries in the apartments. That's just what the community was happy with. And it saves money because laundries are deemed wet areas for obvious reasons. So you've got to membrane them all, which just adds extra cost and takes up space. So instead they decided they want it all together, well connected with the outside space, and they can just hang it here as a community.
Yeah, because often in apartments, that's often very difficult to do laundry properly.
They end up on the balconies, don't
Yes,
they, Kev?
yeah. There's tiny little clothes horses.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if you want to form a community, make everybody hang their jocks out together. Then on this side, we can see onto the rest of the village. But what's really interesting is that we designed here where this gap is, an apartment, a home. We're in a housing crisis, we need homes. But the council said, no, you have to match the existing building on that side. See that roof?
Oh, yeah?
You have to bring it down and match it here.
That one there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and makes no sense. Give us more housing, we're in a housing crisis, but instead of arguing, we did what we do at Austin Maynard Architects, we turned it into an opportunity rather than complaining about it. So we ended up putting this amphitheatre here.
Ah.
The city's that way, that's south, and this was a bit of a gamble. This cost us money to put this here, but it's actually great to hear the community say there's a group of them that comes out here and has a coffee every morning. You imagine the sunset's over there, so you get this great sunset. So people come out here and have a glass of wine at the end of the day. So it's turned out to be really great. We've invested in more planting here. But the really exciting thing about this spot, Kev, have a look over this way. Over there, next to that apartment building with the red and grey on it, that's the future home of ParkLife 2.
Where?
Over there.
Oh,
So
yeah.
right next door, and there's two parks. That's why it's called ParkLife 2. Twice the park, twice the life on each side of it. And from the park, you can see the shape of ParkLife 1. So one thing I want to do is Batman style, is fire across a line between the two. So you can just you can flying fox in between them.
Okay.
Okay. You sound like
Whatever.
most of my clients. Okay, Andrew.
Yeah.
Cool. Like think about what it's like if there's a hot northerly. People won't use that, or they won't even use those rooftop terraces. But there's always a spot, depending on what the weather's doing,
Yeah.
on this rooftop.
Because that over there with the table is a very different dynamics. Here you can kind of still chill out by yourself, but also kind of say hello to someone. Whereas that kind of prompts you to, well, I have to kind of sit down.
Yeah. And so they've got a tiki bar.
A what?
The community's got a tiki bar.
Okay.
I don't know where they store it. It doesn't always live up here. And they'll go and put that up the end, plug in some speakers and throw parties. And then you'll just see people naturally disappear down this way when they're just like, I'm just going to have a moment.
It's interesting. A lot of usually the rooftop, the highest part of general apartments tend to be the penthouses and what have you. This is quite the opposite. Is actually everyone get to share the rooftop.
Yep.
and the rooftop terrain really, and sort of series of spaces.
Instead of one person owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good observation. I must say I'm not against the idea of a penthouse, because when we've done them in the past, we've used those to subsidise other housing. So you'll get somebody to pay a premium so we can lower costs elsewhere.
Well, there's
in
the
the
three
building.
bedrooms just over there with their own larger terrace as
Yep.
well, which works. You've got affordable housing in this building, right? There's like 3 or 4?
Yeah, six.
Six?
Six
Yeah.
out of 36.
And what are those two on the ground floor?
So they're bed sits. So
Okay.
they're only like 27 square metres. They're tiny. And so one of them works, one of the people that owns that lives and works in Bendigo. So they kind of live half and half.
Okay.
So that's a really great size for them. Another one is owned by a younger person who it's the only way they could get into the housing market. And so while I would say it's not like that's small, that's not a long-term proposition, at least it allows somebody to get into the marketplace and they can leverage off that once they sort of break the back of the loan and go to something bigger.
So it's quite a mix of demographic.
Yeah, which we've talked about this a lot. Like you see that in Europe, they will go out of their way in places like Vienna to get subsidised housing and make it accessible by all demographics. So where I say I'm okay with a penthouse, we have a healthier society where we have people that are very well off living with disadvantaged people and their kids getting along together.
Yeah.
You actually create a healthier society that way instead of buying the penthouse, fencing it off, hiding away. And that's what this is about, is we don't want to just have everybody jammed together in sardine tins. We want to create great, livable long-term homes, but you have to have the supporting spaces to go with that. The parks and the little nooks and the little places for interaction to happen.
And I guess that's the traditional developer model. They just provide a box and the maximum yield, and that's about it.
I think that's a really good observation, that developers miss the opportunity. So they're trying to jam as many homes as possible in thinking that people want 2 bedrooms and a great bench top. What we know from all of the apartments we've done is that if you provide great supporting spaces, the apartments sell straight away. So for developers, the message there is it reduces sales risk. So you end up, okay, with slightly less product, but it's better designed and people love it because it's sustainable and the ongoing running costs are really low. So they sell themselves.
So you've done Terrace House.
Yep.
That episode.
Yep. Which you were a part of.
Yes.
That was the idea of getting a bunch of people that care about the climate crisis, mental health, affordability, the housing crisis, and actually all of us throwing in some money to build good housing.
To get the triple bottom line as opposed to one. Instead of just profit, you get profit, sustainability, and good housing stock.
The reality is we can't live in the biggest houses in the world anymore. We can't have a 2-car garage for everybody.
The Australian dream.
The Australian dream, apparently.
Well, the Australian dream is about ownership of the quarter-acre block, traditionally, having a yard to run around and all that stuff. Becoming harder and harder and less sustainable to do that, develop suburbs and the sprawl that we have. You know, what's interesting about a quarter-acre block too, also traditionally, was a sustainable size that you can grow your own produce. I mean, it's great to see the amount of greenery and veggie patches and stuff. You live in an apartment, you still get all that stuff as opposed to, you know, just in the box.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. I think if people actually ask themselves what the Australian dream is and what their dream is, and they look at what they're being offered in a suburban house detached from everybody else, away from infrastructure, if they honestly ask themselves, they'll probably realise that's not the Australian dream. Connection with green spaces, connection with other people, good quality homes, that's the Australian dream. And living isolated an hour out of town on the quarter-acre block is not providing you with any sort of dream.
Well, the Australian dream was from the 20s, wasn't it? It's like post-World War I mentality. And the garden city, which is quite an old English idea.
Yeah.
And that's just out of place in today's society.
Yeah.
Also, the thing is, we're right next to the train line. We've got very, very expensive infrastructure, and it's got low rises and, you know, just underused locations.
Yeah. So that makes it easier for you as well. Instead of being stuck in traffic, you can drive if you want to. But I tell you what, it's easier to ride a bike or catch a train or catch a tram.
And car ownership is not really a huge thing here because you've got the car shares down the bottom that people use, right?
That's right. So in the basement, there's, I think, 6 car share down there. And so what we find when people move to buildings like this is pretty often they'll give up their car. So a lot of people are buying and go, I still want my car, and they'll find a solution nearby. And then they're like, it's just harder. It's so easy when the train stop is right there. It's so easy when the bike lane's just there. And in the process, they're getting fitter. The government is really interested in what we're doing. Like, we're having these great discussions. Austin Maynard Architects is talking to the Minister for Planning directly and their people. And they're now giving us permits for really sustainable, good quality housing without involving council.
Oh, okay.
So council so often does block good medium density housing. And now we're working directly with government to deliver that housing.
What about the wedding cake?
The wedding cake is dead. Legislation has now changed so that you're not just stepping back and apologetically creating these very expensive forms. So we're looking at a wonderful revolution in housing in Australia starting right now.
Great.
Based on ParkLife and what's happened in the village. And so we're going to see an incredible housing and sustainability future based on this model. It's exciting times.
Go rap.
Rap,
Yeah.
Blur doesn't rap, that's gorillas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, God. Learn your Damon Albarn history. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Austin Maynard Architects worked really hard on this, and we sincerely are trying to help. So we're pretty proud of it, and we hope you enjoyed it.
I'm not Austin Maynard Architects, by the way. For those keep thinking I am, I'm not.
We'd never give him a job. Thank you so much for watching. We love you guys so much. We'll see you in the next one, yeah?
ParkLife.
Dun, 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 dun. I can't remember it. What is commonly known as ParkLife.